Okay, so in the last video, we got the pipe networks all set up. We started to rough in um, our sanitary and our storm. Now, what we can do is we can start basically placing in uh, all of our sanitary and storm. First thing we'll do is we'll start off with the sanitary sewer. So the way we do that is now I've got my position where these structures are. I go in and I would go to the pipe networks over here in the prospector tab of our tool space, expand networks. I find sanitary, so I right click on sanitary and hit edit network. Now it opens up this network layout tools toolbar. Now from here we need to make sure that this is set to sanitary sewer parts. Right now we have surface none, alignment none. That stuff will be changed at a later time. So what we're going to do is there's some different options of placing um, pipes and structures. So if you look at this button right here, this is how we actually place things in our drawing. If I hit the drop down, I can either place pipes and structures at the same time. I can place only pipes. I can place only structures. So it's completely up to you how you want to go through that process. I'm going to start off with both pipes and structures just so you can see how that looks, and then I can go through and do the other ones individually. So I'm going to hit the drop down here for the structure, and I'm going to set the structure that I'm going to use. So if I expand this concentric cylindrical structure, I'm going to choose a new sanitary manhole 48-inch because that's going to put in a 48-inch diameter pipe or structure, which is pretty common, just generic structure. I'm going to choose for now a 10-inch PVC SDR35 pipe. Um, we could go into sizing and all that, and we might go into it later. At the moment, we can put everything in at a 10-inch PVC SDR35 because we can change that at a later time. Now, if I click this button to insert structures and pipes, it asked me to specify the structure insertion point. So I'm going to pick the first location where I was going to have a structure. And if I just control right click and go to the center of that circle that I had created, it places a structure. Now it wants me to specify the second insertion point. So if I go over here, I can come in here and um, I can go to the center of this next structure, and in goes that structure, and it put a pipe in automatically. Now my plan was to start from here, go to here, and then work my way down this way. Okay, so I can go again to my next one, to the center. Again, I can go to my next one at the center, and I could keep going this way if I chose to. I'm just going to right click to enter or escape out of there. Now I could also do it this way by going to structures only, and now at every single one I'd place my structure, but it doesn't put a pipe in between them. And I'll just stop at this point. Now I could connect those by going to pipes only, and now this is where I left off when I had pipes. You notice if you hover over the structure, you get that little symbol, that little circle with a line going north, south, east, west. That means you're going to snap to that structure. So if you see that symbol, you click and that snaps to that structure. Then I go to the next one, pulls the same symbol. Go to the next one, same symbol, snaps to it. And you could just add all the pipes in that way. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Another thing we could do is we could go back into this and do our pipes and structures. Now, this is where I had left off. So if I click the center at that structure, if I go down to that structure, it doesn't put a structure in there. It already knows that that was a structure, so it just places the pipe in there. And then I can go, oops, I accidentally escaped. So if I hover over this, select that one, center for the next one, the next one, just keep going around. And then the last one, I would not have a structure. It would just go straight out to the street and connect to the pipe. So that's why I escaped. Change this to a pipe only. And I go from there. And I'm just going to go to the end point here and just say that that's my connection. So now I've connected my pipe from all that way around and out. Next I have to do from this side and out. So again, I'm going to choose pipes and structures just so that it goes quicker. Now there's no need for me to have a pipe in this section here because this house can go to here, this house can go to here, and this house can go right to here. So I could have no pipe in that section if I wanted. And I go to the center of that one and just continue on. And then here I decided to just instead of going out here like I did before, I'm just going to go to this point and back into this point, and then it's going to combine and go out. So right click to end, exit out. Then I have one more to go from this to here. Now I have two more actually, so I'm going to do structures and pipes. I'm going to go from the center here to that structure, escape to get out, or right click to get out. And I have another one that goes from this point to that point. And right click or escape to get out. Now I've pretty much put in all the pipe structures I need for my sanitary. So I can close out of my layout tools and we're good. One thing I notice is I don't like the purple line here. It doesn't tell me anything about flow. I don't like the purple structures here, so I want to get those set up to be the right colors and everything and line types for the layers. So we're going to set up the sanitary layers. So type in LA for layers. Go down to where you have your C-SSWR. For sanitary sewer pipe, I want to change that color from a 200 to a green. Green is a good color for sanitary. change the line type from a continuous, and I am going to choose the sanitary flow line type and hit OK. For my structure, I don't want that purplish color. I'm going to choose that same green, and I just can keep it at continuous. Now for the other things like profiles and stuff, probably want to change those back from the 200, the other sanitary sewer layers. The pattern can stay white, but the profiles and all that stuff should be changed to the green. Again, the structure pattern, probably could change that to a white instead. And the profile back to green. Alright, so now if I close out of this, now you should see it puts in this SS with an arrow of the flow direction for which way that sanitary is flowing. And that should go in the direction of where you started your pipe to where you ended your pipe. So now we have all that set up in our, to look somewhat decent in our, for our pipes. So now one thing also that we want to change is I don't want these to be called structure 1, structure 2. I want to give something unique to identify between sanitary and storm and water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the structure. If I right click and go to properties, now I can change this from structure 1. Sanitaries will start with an S and then for instance 1. So now that's changed to S1. If I escape, I can go down to the next structure. I'm going to kind of go in order. So this one, S2. Okay, escape. Keep going down. Next one I have S. Oops. S3. S4. Now when I get to this point, I've just labeled this one S9. Now this one will be S10. So I'll select this structure, and that is S10. Now instead of going down to the next one down here to be S11, since this one is in the vicinity of this one, I just go back up to this one and call this one 11. So S11. And then what I would do is just continue on. So there's kind of somewhat of a structure and organization to the way things are going. And this would be S12. And then you just keep on going all the way around. Okay, so now I've finished out here at S21. Now I'm going to go back to my other loop, and basically I'd start this one at S22. Because you can't have two of them called the same name. So I do S22, then I go around this loop, 23, and so on. Okay, so now I've got my structures labeled all the way from S1 starting here and then back through here to my S40, which is the last one that comes in here. So now I've got my pipes in and my structures in for my sanitary, but I haven't set my elevations and slopes of the pipes and all that yet. That will come later. First, I want to make sure that we get our storm in and be able to manipulate and move around as much as we can without having adverse chain reaction effects. So what we're going to do is now I've got all these low points that I put my crosses or lines across in here to indicate where I'm going to have my catch basins and things like that. So what I want to do is I'm just taking a look at my overall site, and I want to take a look, where do I want everything to drain to, so that because I'm going to have my ponds basically as my collecting area for my stormwater. There's not going to really be any exit off the site at the moment. So, and the other thing to keep in mind is you can't have pipe going underneath a building to get to the pond. So we kind of have to take a look at where am I going to put these basic outlets. Um, there's numbers of different options. I could have it going out this way. I could have somewhere up here going out. For me, for my design, I'm going to have my outlets at basically these little cul-de-sac ends coming out. So what that means for me is that this is going to be my final structure area before it heads out. And probably what I'm going to do is somewhere in the middle here, I'm going to basically do a cutoff. So everything from here flows this way to this one. Everything from here flows this way to this one. At the cutoff of it here, so everything this way flows to that one. Everything this way flows to that one, and so on. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go up here to kind of my cutoff is where I'm going to start my my storm structure. I see I've got a high point here, so there's no need for anything here because stuff will flow to the low point here and stuff will flow to the low point here. So my start for my structures are going to be right in this area. Okay, that's where my start is for this side of it. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is we have to have our 10-foot separation from our sanitary um, sewer to our storm sewer. So what I want to do is I'm just going to take a look at this, and if my pipe goes from here to here, I need to make sure that I'm staying 10 feet offset of that. So I need to create some reference lines for that. Okay, so there's a number of different ways to do these references. I can either, or maybe I already have, I can either do a polyline. Basically, I'm going to turn my snaps on and I'm going to have it only snap to the centers. So I could either have polylines and go from, center of structure to center of structure all the way around like so. And then once I've got that polyline, I could offset that polyline 10 feet to the side I want my storm. So let's say this side's, oops, let's say this side's the side I want my storm on. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Now I have my 10-foot offset. Now I know I have to stay at least on the outside of that to be safe. The other option is wherever you have a crossing. So I'm just going to erase this one out here because you can't offset pipes, unfortunately. But if I have a crossing here, another option I could do is just do C for circle, control right click, do a parent intersection. So try to look for where this crosses and hopefully it should pick it up. Apparently it doesn't. You might have to, in your layers for your sanitary, might have to change that line type from that sanitary one to a continuous in order for it to pick it up as an intersection. Let's try it again. Control right click, parent intersection. It's not liking that either. I'll go back, turn my sanitary line back on. Sanitary sewer pipe. Alright, so that was a failed attempt there. My whole goal was to make a circle with the radius of 10 feet, which would show you kind of where the area that you have to stay uh, outside of to put that main line. But for this case, we'll just use this line method. It seems to work just fine. So now it's telling me that at this point is where I have to be 10-foot offset from that sanitary line. So now instead of just doing circles and for my rough in, I can actually just start placing structures at those different points. Okay, so now we can place in ours without having to do those little um, circles and things like that that we had done before. However, one thing that we're gonna want to do is to verify that these are at the low points. One really easy, quick way to do that is just to go to the Analyze tab. You can go to Flow Paths and then hit Water Drop. If it comes up to give you like a box on something, just hit OK. Select the surface, which I did, the road surface, and just use the default. I hit OK. Now, for instance, I place a point here. Okay, if I place a point here, I'm going to right click to get out of there. Now I see that this line ended there, which means it's the low point. This line ended here, which means it's the low point. So I was pretty close, but I wasn't 100% on. So what I'd probably want to do in this situation is grab that line that I had created, go to the end point of that water line. Again, the same thing with this one. Go to the end point of the water line just to make sure that I'm on the lowest point. And then I can select these two water drops and erase them out. Now I know that this line is right on the low point. So now what I'll do is I'll go over to under Storm over here on the networks, right click and edit network. And I will start by placing my storm structure. So if I hit the drop down here for the structures, I go to New Storm 48-inch manhole. And this, I'm only going to do structures only at the moment. And I'll just hold Control down and right click and go to the apparent intersection of where those cross. Now I have that structure there. Next thing I want to do is I've got to place catch basins on each side of these. And with this, I don't use the same structure. I hit the drop down and I choose New Inlet Center 30-inch diameter. And this needs to be placed at the flow line, which is this middle line. Go to endpoint there, it'll come in as a square. And then I do the same thing at the other one, endpoint, square. So I have my two inlets at the low points and my structure. Okay, so next thing I need to do is go down to my next place where I'd have a structure. So if I go down, I'm going to have a structure over here in order to keep it staying 10 feet away and not having to cross too many times my sanitary. So this point here will be a new 48-inch manhole. So I'll place that one right at that endpoint. So that's the storm manhole. No need for catch basin because we're at the high point. So then I'll go down to the next one. Now here's the low point. And again, I can verify my low point by doing the flow paths and the water drop from the Analyze tab. Pick my surface, select OK. I put one there, move this so that it goes right to that end, that point, and that point. So that's my low point. I'm going to erase the water drops. Now, at this point here, I didn't have any, or we don't really have to worry about our 10-foot offset from this because there is no pipe in that section. So what I would do in this situation, it was I do an offset of 10 feet and just take that center line and go out to that side. So that way I know that this is my 10-foot offset from my center line. So that's where my new storm manhole and two catch basins will be. So structure only at that intersection or apparent intersection because they're wanting to do different elevations. and then my 2 inlets at either side of that. So I'm going to go to new inlet center 30-inch diameter, pick structure only, snap to the end point there, and snap to the end point there. That's my other 2 structures. Now when I get to this point, I don't have a pipe going up here, so probably the best spot to cross over would be up here, 10-foot offset from that center line. So I'm going to do another offset of 10 feet, and I'm going to select my alignment and go up that way. So if I extend now this line to that line, that's going to be my manhole. And this is going to be just a new storm 48-inch. Structures only to the end point there. That's one of my structures. This is a high point, so there's no need for catch basins. Down here, I have another low point. So I'm going to do, again, under my Analyze tab, do Flow Paths, Water Drop. Select my surface, my road surface. I hit OK. Place one there, place one there. Now, this one looks like I'm spot on. So I'm good with those 2 water drops. They go right to those endpoints. So I'm going to erase those water drops out. At this crossing section, I'll have a manhole. So for new 48-inch by apparent intersection right at that spot. And I'll have my new inlet center 30-inch diameter structures, and those will go to the endpoints on those flow lines. So I have those 2 in there now. Okay, now to kind of preserve not having to do too long of a run, I'm going to put another structure right here in the cul-de-sac. So I'm just going to put a new 48-inch structure at that endpoint. Okay, and then from there there'd be a pipe that would go out. Okay, so that's kind of one side of it. Now I need to work my way from this half and catch that water and out. So here I have a high point here, so there's no structures going to be there. I'm going to start my structures at this point. So I come in here, I take a look at my flow paths, take a look at my water drop, select that surface, hit OK. Okay, so if I go there, select this line, so my lowest point would be at that end point of my water drop. So now I have that low point for my subdivision. I'm going to erase those water drops. All right. So now what I have is this line here is my 12-foot off or 10-foot offset, but it's offset based off of center line, not the pipe. So in this situation here, I would probably want to go back and put in my polylines from center to center of my sanitary sewer structures. So as long as I'm going from the center to the center to the center, back to the center here, I can erase these 2 offsets because I no longer need those. Those 2 12-foot offsets from my center lines. Now I've got this line in there. I can offset that 10 feet to that side. And now I should have a kind of an area where I have to make sure that I put my structures. So now in this case, I'm pretty well, I mean, the issue we're going to have here is if I put the structure in line to make sure it's 10 feet past this, it's going to be in out here, which is right where my catch basin is. So it's not going to work the greatest in that situation. So what I would maybe do in a situation like this is I would maybe just grab this structure, this S5, and I just grab the center grip there, and I would move it off a little bit past there. So it automatically adjusts the pipes and everything. So now this line has changed. So now I'm actually going to this point. Oops, undo that. Snap to the wrong spot. There we go. So now if I take this and snap to basically an endpoint on this line, if I were to offset that now 10 feet, I can erase that old line that I had. Now this would be a good spot to have that structure. And this one actually could get moved if you wanted to that that spot on that where that manhole was. Now one thing you're going to notice is when I move it, there is no actual center snap with a structure. So one way that you would have to do it is just kind of eyeball it, or you would have to do like a control right click mid between 2 points, go from an end point on one side to an end point kind of on the opposite end, and it would somewhat give you the center close enough. But that's one unfortunate thing. There's not really a spot to snap to in the center of the structure. So now I know that this point is a good spot to put my 48-inch manhole. So I'm going to do a new structure, and I'm going to place it at the apparent intersection at that spot. Now I need to change my structure to a new inlet center 30-inch, and I'm going to go to the end point of this line, so on the flow line, and the end point on this line, so the flow line at that spot. Then we're going to go along here, and we're going to end up having another structure right here. This is going to be a new 48-inch diameter, and it's going to go to the end point at that spot. Still we're maintaining that 10-foot distance. Next one is another low point. So right here I have a low point, and now we have to make sure that again this is on our actual low point where the water will flow. So check my flow paths, use the water drop, I choose my road surface, hit OK, place one there, place one there. Now I can move this line to the correct spots on the flow line, which would be there and there. Get rid of these water drops, I don't need those anymore. And now I can place my manhole and my 2 inlets. So again, new 48-inch. I'll place that at the apparent intersection there, and place 2 inlets, 30-inch inlet center at those spots as well. So that takes care of that low point. Next thing is I have a line going from that up to this point. So really, it's taken care of. We just have to add pipes in here. So now with pipes, we're going to add, just to start off with, again sizing it will change later. We could just start off with a 12-inch RCP for these inlets. So what I'm going to do is you choose 12-inch RCP, go to pipes only. Now again, when you hover over a structure, it gives you that little symbol, so it's going to snap. So I'm going to start from that one and go to this one. So that's one pipe. Then I can escape or right click to get out of it. Do another pipe from this structure to this structure. Now we have that one. Now for these main lines, I'm going to choose something a little bit bigger. So I'm going to choose, let's say, a 24-inch RCP. Pipe only. I'm going to go from that structure down to this structure. And then from that structure down to this structure. And then here I have my two inlets coming in, so I'm going to change that to 12-inch RCP, pipes only. So I'm going to go from this one to this one, right click to get out. Again, pipes only from this structure to this structure. Then I'm going to change it to 24-inch RCP, go from that structure down to this structure. Then from there I can just keep going down to this structure. And here I'm going to have my 12 inches coming in again. So take that 12-inch, choose pipes only. We go from there to there. Right click or escape to get out again. Choose pipe again. From there to there. Now I'm going to choose my 24-inch RCP again. Pipe from that structure to that structure. And then from that structure, I'm going to go out to my pond. So I'm going to try to go out fairly straight. And I'll probably stop at this area where I had that bench. So I'm just going to do a nearest. And that's where I'm going to stop at that point. Again, that's just a branch of it. There's another branch that comes in from this area. So I'm going to start at this spot. Again, I'm dealing with 12-inch RCP for the inlets to the manholes. So it's going to go from there to there. So it's always going to be 12-inch for us from inlet to manhole. We'll look at the sizing of these later, but for now we'll put them at 24-inch. 24-inch from manhole to manhole, and then back to the other manhole. And then again change it to 12-inch so I can get those side ones there. The 12-inch pipe from there to there. 12-inch pipe from there to there. And then back to 24-inch pipe from that pipe straight across to that pipe. Now that pretty much closes out that line, so I can close out that layout tools there. Now one thing that I'm going to notice is this pipe is actually a few feet out of there, so I could probably change this up a bit. So if I'm going to select this line, I'm going to go in and I'm going to remove these vertexes of this offset. Okay, because I could just extend this one out. Well, actually, no, we couldn't because this pipe is still 12 foot, so we're actually, we should be with those. So I'm going to go in and just select these offsets that I've got so far. I don't need those anymore. Might want to hang on to that center line one for the for your sanitary for when we do our water, but these offsets that we did for our storm, no real need to have those in there right now. Okay, so that takes care of this section. I do similar to this section, outletting here, and then this section outletting to here. one thing that you're going to want to do is go through and adjust the names of these structures as well. So for instance, here, this structure, I'm not going to call it structure whatever. This will be M1. So I'm going to select that, right click, go to properties. I'm going to change this structure to M1 or M1. Okay, so that's going to be my manholes, my catch basins. So for instance, this one, I will name that CB1. So that means this opposite side here will be CB2. Oops. CB2. And then we'll go down to the next manhole. That is no longer structure 44, but M2. Go down to the next one. That manhole, M3. Catch basin, CB3. This one, CB4. This one would be M3. Oh, M4. You see what happens if you try to duplicate a name, it won't let you do it. And then so on. You'd work your way around doing a nice sequential labeling system. The other thing is I don't like the look of this pipe, just a solid blue line, so we're going to change the layers just like we did with sanitary. So open up my layers, going to find my C-storm, going to change my C-storm pipe to this red color. Okay, change the pipe line type from continuous to storm flow R. And then again, I'm going to change my storm prof to the red, storm structure to the red. Leave them at continuous is fine. And we could change that C storm center to red as well. Close that out. Now we show the little ST with the arrow showing the direction. Looks a little bit better. Okay, so we'd have to go through and set all that stuff up, making sure that they're named right, and we have the line types and the colors right. One thing you're going to notice now is, now in this section, I'm going to have to figure out something to do with these inlets and things that I have going on over here. So now in this situation, I could either take this and go straight out to the street, but I have nothing really to hook into at this point. So I'm going to actually take this inlet and probably go down to this inlet and then over to that structure over there. So I'm actually going to go in and actually right click on my storm, go to edit network, and if you remember correctly, I had set this stuff up so that we had this stuff backlots flowing to those positions. So I'm going to put in these new inlet 30-inch centers in there. Or, I mean, if you really wanted to get kind of technical with there, you could actually put in a new beehive, because a beehive is what you'd put in pretty much in a grassy area like that. So I'm going to put in a beehive, change it up a little bit. and then I'm going to choose structures only for the moment. And I'm going to place this one here at that back lot, which is my low point. And I'm going to place one up here, which was that other low point. So I have those two structures. Now to go from this point to this point, it's a little long because I need to have about 400 feet minimum, or 400 feet between a pipe. I'm going to join this pipe just so I can see what I've got. So if I go up here, choose 24-inch RCP, go to pipes only, I'm going to go from this structure all the way down to this structure just to see what kind of length I'm dealing with. So it labels it as 912 feet. So if I were even to put it in half, I would exceed my 400 maximum distance. So if I want to split it into thirds and just put manholes in the back there. So I'm going to go to new, storm manhole, well, not 84, 48 inch, and put new structures in. So if I were to split this up into about thirds, let's say I maybe put one on this spot right here. So if you see how it puts a little sign there that kind of shows it's going to split the pipe there. So if I put it there, it keeps the pipe, just splits it into two. So there's one. And now if I do one, maybe somewhere in the middle there or something, now I've got some splits to do or there. Unfortunately, oh, I accidentally picked existing instead of new. So I'm going to select these two structures, go to swap part, select that structure, do new 48 inch instead of existing. I gotta choose this one individually. Swap part, new 48 inch, not existing. Okay, so now I have a pipe coming in there, a pipe coming in there, and I have a pipe coming in here, and a pipe out there. So I've split it enough that I don't have to worry about that longer than the 400-foot pipe. So now from this section, I'd want to follow along the property line because that's kind of where you're going to have your easements out to my storm out here. Now you're going to notice I don't have a structure there, so I probably want to insert one. So what I'm going to do is, just to make sure I have it on a straight line, I'm just going to do a polyline. I'm going to go from the apparent intersection there to the apparent intersection. Okay, it's gonna, again, problem with having so much information in the drawing. Okay, snaps are causing issues, so I'm going to try it again, but this time I'm going to turn my snaps off. And I'm just going to go from nearest to nearest so I don't get that problem again. Go to extend. I'm going to extend out to that pipe, but it's not coplanar, so I'm going to extend to, let's say, one of those road lines. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to do I'm going to go to new 24-inch pipe, and I want to choose, actually I want to put in a new structure first, so new storm manhole 48-inch, and I'm going to place it right at the apparent intersection between those two. And then I'm going to place my pipe, 24-inch pipe only, from that structure now across to this structure. Okay, and then I notice, okay, I'm really hugging that curb there, so maybe I want to select that structure and I want to move it out a little bit to maybe about there or something. Still, I'm inside my right of way, but it's not such a close to that curb there. Can erase that line that I had created. No need for it. So it's looking good so far. So that would go into there, then back out into here, and then out. Again, I have a low point back here, so I could do something similar there. Or if I wanted to, for instance, this one, since this is an inlet, this is an inlet, there's nothing in between, I could actually take this now, put in a new beehive, structures only, at this back end point, which is my low point. Then what I could do is I could go out from this line straight out to the street. So in this situation, I could put, I could do another offset of my center line 10 feet, take my center line out to this side, and then I could do another polyline, polyline from nearest to nearest on there, extend that out to that spot there. Now what I could do is do a new 24-inch pipe from that structure in the back out to this end point. I could put a new manhole 48-inch at that spot there. Now from there I could run a 24-inch pipe from this manhole to that manhole. So just another way of routing pipe. So really that's kind of what I want to go through in this video. You could finish up the storm in here. In the next video we're going to look at sloping pipes, setting elevations for the structures and all that, and then we'll go on to water once we're done with that.